A $4 root powder can permanently clear the suffocating brain fog ruining your life, but elite private hospitals and boutique neurology clinics have intentionally blacklisted this clinical data to keep you trapped in their endless billing cycles. You are being systematically farmed for profit by a medical elite that thrives entirely on your mental exhaustion, your shattered focus, and your creeping cognitive decline. The absolute, undeniable end to your daily fatigue and your inability to concentrate is a highly specific, raw botanical extract sitting in obscurity, costing mere pennies a day to use. Yet the private healthcare syndicate and the pharmaceutical cartel are utterly terrified you will discover how to prepare it. I am exposing the exact suppressed biological protocol they have spent decades trying to erase. Think about the sheer, crushing reality of waking up every single morning already exhausted. You stare at your computer screen, you try to read a simple document, or you attempt to hold a meaningful conversation, but there is a thick, impenetrable wall of cotton inside your skull. You cannot pull the right words. You cannot hold a thought for more than a few seconds. You are operating at 20% capacity, drinking massive, toxic amounts of caffeine just to barely survive the day. When you finally break down and visit a high-end private diagnostic clinic, they run tens of thousands of dollars in blood panels, MRI scans, and cognitive tests. Then, the wealthy concierge doctor sits across from his mahogany desk and tells you that your blood work is normal. They tell you that you are just stressed, that you are just getting older, or worse. They diagnose you with mild depression and hand you a prescription for a synthetic amphetamine or a mind-numbing SSRI. What they absolutely refuse to tell you is that their expensive tests are designed to look for the wrong biological markers. They are looking for tumors or massive arterial blockages. They are deliberately ignoring the microscopic cellular energy crisis happening inside your prefrontal cortex. The private wellness industry, the executive health clinics, and the pharmaceutical giants have constructed a multi-billion-dollar empire built entirely on managing your fatigue, not curing it. If they actually fix your brain fog, you stop paying for their $5,000 diagnostic packages, you stop buying their synthetic stimulants, and you stop being a highly lucrative, compliant patient. They need your brain to be weak. They rely on your exhaustion. Let us tear open the classified history they desperately want to keep buried. During the height of the Cold War, behind the Iron Curtain, Soviet military scientists were tasked with an impossible mission: find a way to make their elite soldiers, cosmonauts, and Olympic athletes immune to physical exhaustion and psychological stress. They needed a compound that would allow a human brain to operate with flawless, razor-sharp clarity under the most brutal, sleep-deprived conditions on Earth. They screened thousands of botanical compounds. Eventually, high in a completely isolated, freezing, and brutal mountainous region, they found a single, unremarkable-looking root. The classified, heavily guarded military trials they ran on this root powder were absolutely staggering. This was not a stimulant like caffeine or cocaine, which artificially spikes your heart rate and crashes your nervous system. This was a completely new class of biological compound. The data proved that the active molecules in this root permanently restructured the brain's response to stress, literally forcing the neurons to generate massive amounts of their own internal energy. The Soviet regime classified this research as a state secret. For decades, the West knew nothing about it. When the data finally leaked after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Western medical establishment and the private hospital cartels instantly recognized the threat. A $4 unpatentable root powder that could permanently eradicate chronic fatigue and brain fog would completely destroy their highly profitable executive burnout industry. So, they successfully marginalized it. They labeled it as alternative folklore, refused to fund domestic clinical trials, and buried the true, hyper-effective preparation methods beneath a mountain of medical bureaucracy. Now, while the massive legal apparatus of the medical establishment mandates that I state this broadcast is strictly for educational purposes and is not intended to replace the heavily biased, financially motivated advice of their certified practitioners, I am demanding that you look at the raw science. Look at the staggering failure of modern medicine to cure chronic fatigue. You have the fundamental, undeniable right to take absolute control of your own neurological energy. You have the right to access the suppressed, military-grade botanical science they desperately want to keep locked away. To truly comprehend the staggering, miraculous power of this suppressed root powder, you must understand the microscopic, catastrophic energy failure happening inside your brain right now. The medical elite love to blame your brain fog on a lack of sleep or simply getting older. That is a highly calculated biological lie. Your brain fog is not a symptom of age. It is the direct result of mitochondrial collapse induced by severe chronic cortisol toxicity. Your brain contains a dense network of neurons, and inside every single one of those neurons are thousands of microscopic power plants called mitochondria. These mitochondria are responsible for taking the glucose and oxygen from your blood and converting them into ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the literal physical currency of cellular energy. Without massive amounts of ATP, your neurons cannot fire, your synapses cannot connect, and your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus, executive function, and clear thought, simply shuts down. This shutdown is what you experience as brain fog. It is your brain going into low-power survival mode because it is starving for ATP. Why are your mitochondria failing? The answer lies in the highly toxic modern environment you live in. Your body has an ancient alarm system called the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When you experience stress, this axis pumps out cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Thousands of years ago, cortisol was meant to save your life from a predator. It spiked for 10 minutes and then vanished. But today, because of chronic financial stress, toxic diets, blue light radiation from screens, and endless psychological pressure, your HPA axis is completely broken. It is stuck in the on position. You are pumping massive toxic levels of cortisol into your bloodstream 24 hours a day. Cortisol is highly lipophilic, meaning it easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. When massive amounts of cortisol flood your brain, it acts like a highly corrosive acid on your mitochondria. The cortisol literally binds to the mitochondrial membranes inside your prefrontal cortex and suffocates them. It physically halts the production of ATP. Your brain's power plants go offline. The electricity in your mind goes dark. You try to focus, but the biological machinery required to generate that focus has been paralyzed by your own stress hormones. The private hospitals know this, yet they prescribe you synthetic stimulants like Adderall or Ritalin. These drugs are biologically criminal. They do not fix the mitochondria. They simply whip the dying, starving neurons, forcing them to release emergency stores of dopamine until the cells completely burn out and die. This is exactly where the absolute biological miracle of this $4 root powder comes into play. The specific hyper-concentrated botanical compounds inside this plant are not stimulants. They are classified as supreme primary adaptogens. When the active molecules of this root cross your blood-brain barrier, they do not stimulate your nervous system. They execute a highly targeted permanent rescue mission on your entire HPA axis and your failing mitochondria. First, these active compounds act as a biological circuit breaker for your broken stress response. They enter the hypothalamus and physically bind to the glucocorticoid receptors, instantly shutting down the hyperactive production of cortisol. They stop the corrosive acid from flooding your brain. The chemical assault on your neurons is halted immediately. Second, and this is the phenomenon that stunned the Soviet military scientists, these molecules actively enter the suffocated, damaged mitochondria inside your prefrontal cortex. They stimulate the production of specific enzymes that repair the mitochondrial membrane and instantly restart the massive biological synthesis of ATP. They do not just repair the power plants, they upgrade them. The compounds force your neurons to physically build more mitochondria, doubling the energy capacity of your brain cells. Your brain goes from a failing, flickering light bulb to a massive, blazing searchlight of cognitive power. Your focus returns, the cotton in your head dissolves, and your mental endurance becomes absolute. So, what is this heavily guarded, miraculously powerful botanical? It is the purest, high-altitude extraction of Rhodiola rosea, specifically the legendary golden root from the freezing Altai Mountains of Siberia. But stop right there. Do not rush to your local pharmacy or health food store and buy a cheap plastic bottle of Rhodiola capsules. If you do that, you will completely fail, you will waste your money, and the brain fog will continue to suffocate your life. This is exactly how the supplement industry manipulates the narrative and dismisses this military-grade science. They tell you, "We tried Rhodiola, it's just a mild herb." Of course it is, when they sell you biological garbage. The store-bought, mass-produced rhodiola you find on shelves is harvested at the wrong altitude, dried at massive, destructive temperatures, and completely devoid of the specific medicinal compounds required to heal your brain. The active ATP-generating molecules inside the golden root are called Rosavins and Salidrosides. These are incredibly fragile botanical chemicals that only develop when the plant is subjected to the extreme freezing stress of the high-altitude Siberian tundra. Furthermore, if the ratio of these two compounds is not perfectly aligned, the root is medically useless. To unlock the permanent brain fog clearing power of this root, you must extract the Rosavins and Salidrosides using a highly specific lipid-based fusion protocol to ensure they cross your blood-brain barrier perfectly intact. Here is the exact step-by-step biological formulation to create what we will call the Siberian Nootropic Matrix. You need 3 highly specific yet incredibly affordable ingredients. First, you must acquire a pure, freeze-dried Rhodiola rosea extract powder. You must read the clinical label carefully. It absolutely must be standardized to contain exactly 3% Rosavins and 1% Salidrosides. If it does not state this exact 3-to-1 ratio, it is a counterfeit, biologically dead strain. Second, you need a highly specific cellular transport vehicle to pull these fragile molecules across your intestinal wall. You need raw, organic sunflower lecithin powder. Sunflower lecithin is packed with phosphatidylcholine, a massive fatty phospholipid that perfectly mimics the structural membrane of your own brain cells. Third, you need a pure, cold-pressed, raw cacao butter. Cacao butter contains highly stable saturated fats and trace amounts of theobromine, a gentle natural vasodilator that will open the microscopic capillaries in your brain, ensuring rapid delivery of the matrix. To prepare the matrix, you must follow these instructions with absolute, unwavering precision. You will need a small glass bowl and a small saucepan to create a gentle double boiler system. Never expose these ingredients to direct, high heat, and absolutely never use a microwave. The electromagnetic radiation will instantly shatter the delicate Rosavin molecules, rendering the extract entirely useless. Place exactly 1 tablespoon of the raw, cold-pressed cacao butter into the glass bowl. Set the bowl over the saucepan filled with barely simmering water. Allow the gentle steam to slowly melt the cacao butter until it is a clear, golden liquid. Once melted, immediately remove the glass bowl from the heat. You must let it cool for exactly 2 minutes so it is warm, but not scalding. Next, add exactly 1/2 teaspoon of the standardized 3% Rosavin Rhodiola rosea extract powder directly into the warm liquid lipid. Immediately follow this with exactly 1/2 teaspoon of the raw sunflower lecithin powder. Now, using a small wooden spoon, absolutely no metal, as the trace metallic ions will initiate premature oxidation, begin to vigorously stir the mixture. As you stir, the raw heat of the fat will slightly soften the botanical cell walls of the rhodiola, while the sunflower lecithin acts as a biological emulsifier, violently pulling the Rosavins and Salidrosides out of the powder and locking them directly into the fatty acid chains of the cacao butter. You are creating a liposomal shield. You will see the mixture transform into a thick, glossy, golden brown paste. The active neurocompounds are now encased in an impenetrable wall of phospholipids, completely protected from the destructive, highly acidic environment of your stomach. You have just created a highly advanced, military-grade cognitive compound in your own kitchen for roughly $4 a dose. A compound that the private neurology clinics desperately prayed you would never learn how to formulate. How do you use this Siberian matrix to achieve total, permanent eradication of your brain fog? The protocol is fiercely strict, and you must adhere to the biological timing of your cortisol awakening response. You must consume this mixture exactly once a day, and it must be administered first thing in the morning, within 30 minutes of opening your eyes. When you wake up, your body naturally spikes cortisol to pull you out of sleep. In a broken system, this spike stays elevated all day, causing the brain fog. By intercepting this exact moment, the matrix resets the circadian rhythm of your HPA axis. Take exactly 1/2 teaspoon of the solidified matrix paste. Do not chew it. Place it directly under your tongue and let your natural body heat melt the cacao butter. The sublingual blood vessels under your tongue will instantly absorb a portion of the unshielded Salidrosides directly into your bloodstream, providing an immediate biological circuit break to your morning cortisol surge. After the paste has melted for roughly 60 seconds, swallow the remaining lipid matrix with a small glass of warm water. When you adhere perfectly to this precise biological protocol, the physiological reversal of your cognitive exhaustion is breathtaking, scientifically irrefutable, and completely permanent. On day 1, within the first 45 minutes of your initial dose, you will experience a profound structural shift in the center of your skull. As the liposomal Rosavins cross the blood-brain barrier and bind to your hypothalamus, the relentless, invisible flood of cortisol will abruptly shut off. The chemical acid burn on your prefrontal cortex will stop. The heavy, suffocating blanket of mental fatigue will literally lift, replaced by a clean, vibrating rush of intense, unyielding mental clarity. You will not feel a jittery, nervous spike like you do with massive doses of caffeine. You will feel a deep, profound sense of biological stamina. Your visual field will physically sharpen. The exhaustion of simply trying to exist will vanish. By day 7, the active Salidrosides have initiated the massive mitochondrial repair sequence. The damaged power plants inside your neurons are healing and rapidly dividing. Your brain is now flooded with sustained, massive levels of ATP energy. You will begin to wake up 5 minutes before your alarm clock goes off, feeling entirely rested. The terrifying 2:00 p.m. afternoon crash will be completely eliminated. You will sit down at your desk, and your focus will lock onto your work with the precision of a laser. The maddening phenomenon of losing your train of thought or struggling to find the right word in a conversation will disappear. The biological machinery of your mind is coming back online. By day 30, you have achieved clinical, structural neuroenergetic restoration. The continuous cascading defense mechanism of the Siberian Matrix has entirely rebuilt the mitochondrial density of your prefrontal cortex. The suffocating brain fog has been fundamentally eradicated at the cellular level. Your working memory, your rapid problem-solving skills, and your executive function will be restored to peak elite levels. The profound anxiety, the constant overwhelming feeling of burnout, and the creeping depression that accompany chronic mental fatigue will be entirely replaced by a supreme, unshakable confidence in your own endless cognitive endurance. You will realize with absolute burning clarity that the elite medical establishment lied to you. You are not a victim of aging or stress. You were simply a victim of a starving, cortisol-poisoned brain, and you have finally provided the exact suppressed botanical cure it was begging for. Do not let the private hospital cartels and the concierge medical elite dictate the terms of your mental decline. Do not let them drain your bank account with useless diagnostics and highly toxic synthetic stimulants while your precious cognitive power fades into exhaustion. Take back absolute command of your brilliant mind today. If this suppressed science resonates with the truth you know in your gut, you must hit the subscribe button right now to join the banned knowledge vault. The algorithm is constantly trying to shadow ban and suppress this channel to protect trillion-dollar industry profits. Subscribing ensures you stay locked directly into this vault of hidden medical truths they desperately want to keep from you. Check the description below for direct, uncompromised links to the exact, heavily vetted, 3% standardized rhodiola extract, the organic sunflower lecithin, and the raw cacao butter you need to build your own Siberian Nootropic Matrix today. Do not wait for another day to be lost to the fog. Reclaim your limitless brain right now.